Hello. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, y'all tuning in. Hey, as you're tuning in, say hello. As you're watching the replay, say hello. I'm watching the replay. Put it in the comments. As you're tuning in, we're talking today about strength training, simple steps to get you started on strength training. Of course, I know what it felt like when I first started strength training. I know how hard it was to get started. So my goal today in this discussion is to talk about simple ways to get you started, especially if you are a group fitness junkie and maybe you want to venture out to the gym floor. I'm in my gym right now. Let's see, can I turn the camera? Yes, I can. That's one view, but I don't really want to mess my view up, so. My cat is here. I was gonna go grab him. So as you're tuning in, say hello. I see some folks tuning in. Hi, Miss Casey. Hello, hello. Again, we're talking about basic, simple steps to get you started strength training. Some of you that are tuning in, you maybe are already strength training, so you can maybe relate to these steps. Maybe you didn't take some of these steps. Maybe you need to reevaluate your steps. I'm down here in my basement, so I could talk to you about certain pieces of equipment that are super simple to use if you are not working out at a gym. That is part of my steps, so we'll talk about that. Hi, Brandy. If I haven't said hello to you, say hello to me so I know who else is watching. I've got some folks watching that I don't know who they are. Mr. Kitty! Let me grab my cat. Hold on. He loves his birds, but we're watching. Oh, grab him so you can see him. Mr. Kitty, like, why did you take me from the window? Who's here? Who's here? Here's my kitty cat. Meet All right, let's get started. Let's talk about our basic steps. So simple steps to get you started in strength training. So you've decided you want to strength train and you got to figure out how to do it. A lot of the times we resort to group fitness classes because they're simple. They're on the schedule. You just have to go. The instructor tells you what to do, and that's strength training. Sure, that can work for a short period of time. If you are consistently doing strength training and group fitness is your strength training, the problem with that is that it's not necessarily as thorough. Maybe it's not as progressive. Maybe it's not as challenging as it needs to be when it comes to strength training. The goal is to be very challenging to see muscle growth. And so if you're that person that is typically using group fitness as your strength training source, it's not bad. So don't get me wrong. Don't say, Julie told me not to do group fitness strength training, because don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you need to evaluate, if you've been doing it for a long time, if it's still serving you. And if you haven't seen your body change, then it's time to change something up. And that's super simple, is getting into the weight room or choosing to do something at your house. So that's where you have to decide what your goal is. So what is your goal when we strength train? For most people, the importance of strength training is you want to burn fat, you want to create shape on your body. Other folks may have a goal to continue their longevity. It could be that maybe they want to increase independence. Maybe they've been listening to me and other folks, other fitness professionals, that you know you're losing muscle mass if you don't use it. So if you're a woman in her midlife, which all of you are on this page, if you're not strength training, you're losing 3% of your muscle mass every year that you age. And even though you're strength training, you may just be counteracting that loss, and you may or may not be actually gaining strength if you're not doing it properly. So my job and my passion is to get women to understand what that looks like and what proper strength training at its best looks like, okay? And I'll tell you what I typically do, and I'll tell you how I train, so that might help you get some ideas on what works, what you might want to try. Hi, Michelle. So awesome. So we're going to talk about establishing your goal. So what is your goal? For some people, it might just be, I want to lose body fat. I want to change the shape of my body. And if that's you, put me in the comments. If you just want to shape your body differently, if you want to lose body fat, you want to look at yourself in the mirror, say, I look toned, I look like I'm in shape. If that's you, put me in the comments, okay? Maybe you are that person that just wants to build muscle regardless of losing body fat. Maybe you just want to get into the gym and see what your body can do. And if that's you, then your nutrition is going to be different than this person that wants to lose body fat at the same time. So first establish if that's your goal. If your goal is to lose body fat and gain muscle at the same time, calorie deficit, prioritizing protein. We can talk about that at another time. That's not what this talk is about, but prioritizing protein in a calorie deficit is possible, and it is possible to gain weight and lose fat at the same time, with the caveat that if you are looking to build muscle, it is often more effective if you are in a calorie surplus, because bodies need energy to build muscle, right? You can't just expect a car to go from here to there without gas. The same is true with building muscle. If you give yourself a calorie deficit, it's harder to allocate those calories towards building muscle when it's just using the calories to survive. So keep that in mind. So for me personally, I don't even bother with a calorie deficit right now. In fact, I probably eat with maintenance. I'm not even as aware of my calories at the moment. But if I was truly in a building phase, I would be in a calorie surplus. I'm speaking from a perspective where I used to do bodybuilding, and half of my year would be in a cut phase, getting ready for a show, preserving any sort of muscle mass that I've built in my built phase. And then the build phase is where that intense calorie surplus comes in, and minimizing body fat by increased protein intake, all of those things. So nutrition is something that is very, very different on both sides of those goals. And if you're just like, hey, whatever, Julie, I just want to strength train, maybe that's fine. That's fine too. Like maybe the nutrition isn't your focus at the moment, and that's fine. So that's the first step. The second step is determining, well, first of all, talk to your doctor. I can't be a health professional and not give you that little disclaimer that you should be consulting your physician to make sure it's safe for you to do so, because that is definitely something to be concerned about if you have any underlying issues. We all have issues. Do you have joint issues? Do you have, heart problems? Like all of those things. You have to be aware of that. So second thing we have to determine is if you are going to work out at home or if you're going to work out at a gym, because that's going to drastically change the type of programming that you might have, okay? Because you'll often agree that your equipment that you would have at home is certainly very different than the equipment you would have at a gym, and vice versa, unless you're a fitness freak like me who has decided to invest like $20,000 in my basement space, so I don't have to do it at the gym. Let me put that back. Okay. Let me check my notes. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is create a plan. I think that's where we always tend to get confused. So we tend to, if you're not a personal trainer or a fitness professional, you go to other sources, free sources usually. So you look for routines on YouTube, you look for workouts on Instagram, you look for, I don't know, a program to follow from a website or even a magazine. Does anybody read magazines anymore? I remember when I was a kid, not a kid, but like a teenager, I'd like pull workouts from the 17 magazine or Women's Health, and that's what I would do. Can you relate to that? Right? So it's hard. It's hard to understand like what makes a really good strength training program. So if you don't have the knowledge to do that, you could hire somebody like myself. A little plug for what I do. I do have personal training subscriptions where I bring you along onto my personal training app, and then I write programming for you, and you take that programming into the gym, or you take it into your home with some minimal equipment, and I write the programming that I know is safe, effective, and will get you the results that you want, and all you have to do is do the workouts. I know I've got a couple of folks on here watching right now that are actually using my workouts. Shout out to Casey, and Michelle is one of my clients. So that's what I do for my clients. I write programming and I provide motivation and education around strength training, okay? But if you're that person that's like, meh, I don't want to pay anybody, that's cool, but you still want to get started. The best way to do that is sit down and be realistic with yourself and say, okay, how many days a week can I actually devote to strength training? Does that look like 2 days a week? Does that look like 4 days a week? Does that look like 5 days a week? Be really honest with yourself and say, how many times a day a week am I going to the gym, if that's what you're doing? Or how many times a week can I come down into my basement and spend 30 minutes, spend 45 minutes? Because that's going to determine the type of split. So I'm going to explain to you what a split is. So once you have those days, we can determine what days a week you're going to be training different muscles. This was my workout this morning, so I'm just going to erase it. And by the way, just so you know, even me as a fitness professional that has knowledge and knows what I'm doing, I work with a personal trainer all the time because he writes my programming because I don't want to. And I like to learn from other folks, so he teaches me his thought process behind creating programming. Okay, so let's say a split. Let's say you have 3 days a week that you want to strength train. 3 days is a really good number because that puts you with enough rest in between each day, so you can feel recovered from each muscle group. 4 days is better. 4 days is even better. 5 days is pretty good. 6 days is getting to be a little bit much unless you are a experienced lifter. I personally only lift 4 days a week, but also because I teach group fitness classes. So decide what that looks like for you, but 3 days a week, 4 days a week is usually pretty ideal. If you're doing like 3 days a week, I tend to split things up. So when we say split, that means how are you splitting up the muscles, the muscle groups that you're training? I tend to split it up with a leg day, a pull day, and a push day. So with leg day, obviously that's a leg day. You're gonna be training the muscles of your legs. A pull day is all the muscles of your back of the body. So back, shoulders, rear delts, lower back, biceps, that's a pull movement. And then a push movement is just the opposite. So pushing movements, chest, triceps, shoulders, a little bit of core. And I tend to put core exercises at the end of all 3 of these days, to be honest with you. So that's one day you could do a split. Another, like a 4-day split, might be like, this is what my personal trainer has me on. So a pull leg day, a push leg day, a pull upper, and a push upper. So essentially you are just dividing up the muscles in very different ways, okay? You can look this up on any sort of, on Google and just figure out what would be best for you. There's really no rhyme or reason for any of this. Well, actually, no, there are reasons why, but there are certainly no evidence out there that says this is the best split in terms of how you group muscle groups. The one thing I would avoid is, I definitely wouldn't do, like the bro split is like back and bis, chest and tris, legs, and then that's it. I definitely would recommend, there is evidence out there that hitting the same muscle group twice a week is actually more effective than just doing it once a week, but it's all about volume. And gosh, we're getting into big details here, which is something that as a personal trainer that I consider and that I will work around and get you the right volume. And certainly that's not something that maybe you as a new lifter would have to deal with. So I want to dial back this details that I'm going down. So let's put this into the perspective that you're brand new to strength training and you want to strength train 3 days a week. This is where you go. This leg day, pull day, and push day. Or you could simply just do 3 total body days and be at the same exact workout all 3 days, okay? And that would be the best place to start, is if you are unfamiliar with the weight machines at the gym or unfamiliar with some of the pieces of equipment that you could easily use at home, this is where I would start. 3 days of total body, meaning hitting the big muscle groups, your chest, your back, your legs, your abs, and your arms, with maybe 3 to 4 sets of each exercise. Let's talk about that. If you're unfamiliar with that terminology, a set is a group of reps. A rep is just the individual exercise. So a rep of a bicep curl, 1, 2, 3, those grouped together as a set. And so when we program sets Sets are those groups of reps, okay? So 4 sets of 10, 4 sets of 20. That is something that is very basic when we first start. It's very much like, hey, 3 sets of 10 for each exercise is a great place to start, okay? For my friends that have never done this before. And if you are experienced in the gym, that's where we start to deal with changing volume, changing the stimulus, changing the weight. So this is a really great question I get a lot of the times is, how do I know how much weight to lift? And I never know the answer because I don't know how strong you are. So you have to go into the gym or go into with your equipment and go, okay, what weight can I lift that will get me to 10 reps or whatever the rep prescription is and still get good repetitions, quality reps without failing, but it's a big challenge. I should film myself. So the next time I do a workout, I did one this morning, I should film myself towards the end of each set because that's a really good visual to see somebody's really struggling to hit a rep, but still doing the rep and with good form. That's where you know you have the right amount of weights. Now I'm talking to one of my clients right here. She's still watching because she asked me that question. How do you know when it's time to increase your weights? It's time to increase your weights when those sets are super easy. When you're like, yeah, I could get through this and I could probably do 5 more. Then that weight is too light, okay? That is a big question that I get a lot. And if you have any questions while we're talking, guys, feel free to put them in the comments. I know I've got a bunch of you watching. So those are sets, those are splits, those are reps, all of the kind of terminology. Let's kind of talk about, where do I want to go from here? Let's talk about some basic home equipment. So for some of you, you may or may not be at the gym. You may not have the ability to get to the gym frequently. So there's no reason why you can't get a really good strength training workout at home without all of this crazy equipment that I've invested in. You can still get it done with just a couple of pieces of equipment. When I work with clients that I am encouraging to get into strength training and basically don't have any equipment at home, and maybe they're not even close to a gym. In fact, I just signed with a client who lives in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and she's like, Julie, I don't have a place to go to the gym. So this is what we do. And this is actually why I'm down here today, so I can show you some of this equipment. This stuff, which I don't ever really use anymore because I don't have a need to, because it's, I have other things. So these are resistance bands, and they're really great because they are various different pounds. So like this would be a 40-pound resistance band. What you can notice is I've got 2 of these on these handles. These handles are interchangeable. So if you want to take it off of the really heavy one and maybe put it on one of the lighter ones to do things like bicep curls or lat pull downs, something like this. There's nothing wrong with resistance band training. In fact, resistance band training is a very simple way to get resistance in a very small package and still be very effective, okay? So these are like $30 on Amazon, and they come with like a lot of attachments right here, and they will definitely be ways to train at home. They have some attachments that you can actually put it behind like a door, and you can do some rows, or you can do some like oblique twists. There are so many exercises to be done with these that it can simply replace the need for a huge rack of dumbbells. Not that dumbbells are not effective, and not that I don't encourage folks to have a heavy pair and a light pair. So if you're at home, a heavy pair and a light pair is good. And of course, that's all relative. So for somebody just starting out, you might start with like a 7.5 pound. This guy right here, 7.5 pounds. Can be done with lots of arm stuff, bicep curls, side raises, overhead presses, all of this arm stuff. And then maybe, just making a mess now, maybe a pair of 20s. So you could do squats, lunges. You could do single stuff like these snatches. There's so many things you can do. So, and I totally grabbed a 17 and a 20 at the same time. Yeah. Crazy. So first and foremost, definitely get yourself a whole thing of resistance bands. And there are so many workout routines that you can find that program these types of exercises. Here's the thing though, if you are looking for some sort of workout plan, a single workout that somebody might post on YouTube is a nice place to start. So I'm not at all knocking any of the workout creators that you can save those workouts and do them on your own. Like, those are great. Just be mindful that that's not going to give you that progressive overload. What do I mean by progressive overload? So when we're designing plans as personal trainers, we think about what muscle are we hitting, how often are we hitting it, and are we reaching it to progressive overload to build strength? So that doesn't mean I'm going to do one workout one day and then never do it again. This also means I'm going to be doing that same workout with that same exercise every week for anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, because our bodies start to adapt after that time period. And so doing one workout you've saved on Instagram and then never doing it again doesn't necessarily progress you any further, because your body has to do a couple of things when it's doing muscle recruitment through an exercise. It has to recruit nerves, it has to recruit more muscle fibers, and the more often it sees those exercises, the better results you're gonna see in terms of muscle growth and muscle hypertrophy. And if you are this person that creates random workouts and does them once and never does them again, it's not gonna be as effective as if you had a progressive overload style training program that keeps into account how many times are you hitting a muscle and how often and from what angle, and then are you incorporating stabilizer muscles? Are you training those properly to keep the joint safe? And if this sounds all too much, then just hire me and I'll write your programs. Simple as that. My cat literally just jumped up the window to get a bird. Guys, you can't see him. He's on that window over there. Freaking kitty cat. Anyways, another piece of equipment that's super fun and very simple and very cheap to buy are these booty bands. So these things. So guys, not the little tiny, like these things that are super, these will come with your resistance band. Like, here, have some Loop Magic bands. These things are terrible. They're shit. Just throw them away, because they like roll up on your legs and then they don't really do much. These, on the other hand, are much better. These cloth ones, these are the ones that you want, okay? And if you have any questions, I'm not sponsored by any of these, or none of this is ads, but I have links on Amazon that you can buy these, okay? These are great for your legs. These are really great for, you can use some upper body work too, but these are really great for legs, glutes, and some abs as well. This is something that I would definitely recommend to have in your arsenal, because you can train your glutes, you can train your outer thighs, you can train your inner thighs, you can train all of certain things with these booty bands, and they're very effective. Okay? What else? What else? Okay. The last thing I want to talk about, I can't even put those on right. The last thing I want to talk about is tracking. So how do you know you're improving unless you track? So lots of ways to do this. So obviously, if you're tracking using a progressive overload style plan, you're going to be tracking your weights. And that's really what I just erased on my whiteboard, was the weights that I used this morning when I was training my legs. And you need to keep track of that, because if you don't know what you lifted last week, then you need to know that, because you need to know if you could push it to a little bit more. And as you push things towards a little bit more, you're constantly pushing that muscle to overload, progressive overload. And when progressive overload happens, then we know muscles are being damaged, which in turn results in stronger muscle fibers when you sleep and when you give it enough food to recover, okay? So we need to track. So that's super important. So if you're that person, again, that's doing a random strength training workout from Instagram or YouTube, it's a good place to start. But if you're looking to level up your strength training, or if you're looking to really start off on a really good foot with strength training, keeping track of your records with logs, with an app, with whatever, is a great strategy. There are tons of apps out there where you can program yourself a workout, and then you can do the workout by putting in, I did this weight with this reps this many times. My husband uses one, I forget what it's called. Second thing we need to track. We need to track what you look like. We need to track what you, how else can I say this? Muscle growth around your body. So that can be done lots of different ways. And don't rely on the scale. Your scale is just a direct measurement of how much your body weighs. Not at all a reflection of how much muscle you have grown or how much body fat you have lost. Okay, so you guys know that. Emotionally, do we know that? Probably not, because that's why we get so mad when we get on the scale. So what do? I have my clients take pictures. Michelle, if you haven't taken pictures, please take some pictures, because she's just getting started. Taking pictures are going to be the biggest thing that you are going to want, because then you'll start to see over time how your body has changed. I do this every quarter or so is when I usually take different pictures, just because it's good to see where muscles have changed. And a lot of the times I don't see it until I pull up those pictures. Like, oh yeah, look, I can see a bit more quad definition, or oh yeah, I can see a bit more shoulders. So pictures are definitely a great thing to do. A front view, a side view, a back view, all of those things, okay? The third thing you can do when you're tracking your progress, of course, is taking measurements. Measurement is a great way to determine if your muscles have gotten bigger or if you've lost fat around different areas of your body, okay? So either changes in measurements can be determined by if you have gained weight in terms of building muscle, or maybe lost weight around your waist. Like, you can totally tell better with measurements what your progress is versus the scale, because I've seen numerous pictures of people that weigh the exact same but look entirely different because they changed their body composition. So that means they have exchanged body fat and built muscle. And you guys would probably agree that you could probably care less about the number on the scale if your body looked like the way it wanted to look. Do you agree? If you're watching this right now and you can agree with that statement, say, yeah, I don't really care what the number is on the scale, right? As long as you like what the body looks like in the mirror, that's all that matters. So my point is, taking pictures, taking measurements will also, definitely give you that positive reinforcement that things are working. The other thing I need you to be aware of, is that this takes time. Probably more time than you're willing to admit that you probably don't want to wait. I will tell you, like, I'm impatient too, but strength training isn't the overnight fix that's going to give you the shapely body that you want, the change in the body composition that you want. Like, we're talking months to years that it takes to really change your body. Now, if you're new to this and you aren't really used to, if your body's not acclimated to traditional style strength training, then you'll see results quicker. I started strength training, how old was I? It was before I had kids. So like in my middle 20s. And then I really didn't start seeing the changes until I stopped like obsessively running. To be honest with you, I was a runner for the longest time. And then when I finally just focused on strength training, I started noticing results really quickly, but then they start to plateau after you've been doing it for a while, and it takes a little bit longer, and it takes a bit more stress and stimulus to get muscles to change when you have been accustomed to it. So just know that it takes a little bit more time than maybe you're willing to give, and so that's when most folks give up with consistency. It's because they're not seeing dramatic results right away. So it just takes time. It takes a lot of time. I do want to say that soreness, I know some folks will tell me, oh, Julia, I'm so super sore from that last training session. Gosh, I must have been doing things right. Jackie's 5 years lifting. Have you noticed things being harder to change now for you, Jackie? And so I want to point out that soreness is not necessarily a direct indicator that you had a really good workout. Even though you're not sore, doesn't mean that your workout wasn't effective and a good workout. Soreness really is a sign of really big stress to your body, which isn't bad. But lack of soreness doesn't mean you didn't do something right. Lack of soreness is just you see that, Jackie? Lack of soreness could be that you recovered yourself really well. So let's talk about recovery. Let's talk about that. Recovery from strength training, your daily strength training or your weekly strength training workout. What does strength training recovery look like for you, and what should you be doing? I encourage my clients to back up any sort of strength training workout up to a meal. Whether that be back it up to dinner, back it up to breakfast, back it up to lunch. Like, I want you to be eating a balanced, consistent meal within the hour that you finish strength training. So for me, that means I get up first thing in the morning and I go downstairs and I have like something super carby, like a piece of toast. Lately it's been like my kids' Hostess snacks. I'm not kidding. I've been having like those little coffee cake things just to get some sugar back into my muscles and quick sugar. And then I do my strength training workout for about an hour. And then I go upstairs and have breakfast. So that means a good amount of protein. So we're talking like, I think I have, how much do I have? I have like 2 eggs with a bunch of egg whites. And today Dave sprinkled some leftover steak we had for dinner last night and the eggs, and then an English muffin. That's what I ate this morning for breakfast. And so your goal is to recover with carbs and protein. Carbs need to be there to open up the muscle fibers. So the muscle fibers can pull in amino acids from the protein that you ate. So when it starts to synthesize new muscles, new muscle fibers, your muscles are ready to go with those 2 nutrients. Okay? I was talking a whole lot. What kind of questions do you guys have? Any questions? Because really, it can be super simple, but then you can go down the rabbit hole of making it really complex to strength train. And if you are really looking for a goal and you are really stuck at a certain place, hiring somebody like myself would certainly help, because I have knowledge that you don't. I also have experience that you don't. And anytime you have a goal that you aren't making forward progress to, it's really helpful to look to somebody else for help. I always am very transparent with myself and my clients that whenever my business wasn't moving forward like I wanted it to, I've hired numerous business coaches. I hire my own personal trainer because I don't want to do it myself. Yep, Faye asked if after a strength workout I eat a banana and a protein shake, would that work? Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about, like, if you can't back it up to a meal, how can you quickly get protein and carbs in? A protein shake with a banana is perfect. I think what some folks get wrong is they'll just chug some protein out of a protein shake, like diluted in water, which is gross. Like protein powder and water, it's super gross. And so they get that wrong as they forget the carbs. The carbs are really important because in a depleted state, so your muscles have just used all of the glycogen stores that are in your muscles. Back up even more. Your muscles store glycogen, which is a source of energy, a source of them energy to contract. And so when you are strength training, you are consistently using that energy source. And so now the muscles are kind of like a sponge. After you work out, it's like, give me carbs, give me glycogen. I need to refuel all the things I just used. And so afterwards, you need to be fueling it back up with those carbs and protein. Okay? So yeah. Any other questions? And if you have a question and you're watching the replay, of course, as you ask the question, tag me so I can come back to it. So it'll give me an alert. I don't often see them if you don't tag me. So make sure you tag me. What are you guys doing this weekend? Anything fun? It's like dreary here in Missouri. It's rainy and actually in the 60s. It's kind of cold here today. Faye, what's it like in France? Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast. I just got a Associated Press new notification. It's raining in New Jersey. Yeah. I'm about to get on a bike, so this is what I do for cardio. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, no, you can't even see my spin bike. Where's my spin bike? There she is. And there's my cat. I'm gonna get on my spin bike and do a race on Zwift. It's nice and sunny in France. Cool. Working out tomorrow and then going to the coast. Awesome, Faye. Cool. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the live. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some take-home things. If you want the links to these resistance bands, feel free to message me. Otherwise, just go search on Amazon for resistance bands and you'll see them. Like they're usually the first item that will pop up. Those are really great and effective. Awesome, Jackie. Thank you. You're so sweet. I know it's different. I used to be doing body pump and body combat live. Now I'm just doing my own thing. I still teach that stuff. I teach now I teach strength development on Monday nights, and I teach combat too, and body balance still over at the Edge. Cool. All right, y'all. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you soon. Bye, guys.